Did you know that in Scotland, prior to the 1600s, New Year's was celebrated on the 1st of November and Samhain, not the 1st of January like we do these days? Now, I have always found winter quite challenging from a mental health perspective. I always saw it as this problem, this insurmountable problem that I wasn't quite strong enough to deal with. But these last couple of years, what I've realised is that winter isn't the problem. The problem was I was trying to live to a calendar and a industrial time rhythm, which is completely out of sync with the natural seasons and the environment I live in. So let's discuss why I think we shouldn't plan our life around the Roman calendar and the industrial 9 to 5 clock, but instead plan it around the rhythms and the seasons of your localized environment. Let's also discuss winter resilience strategies and why I think we should make our New Year's resolutions now and start doing them now in October rather than waiting until the depths of winter when the Cailleach of winter has got a strong grip. So stay tuned and let's ponder. Hi folks, welcome to another Pondering on the Deepdive channel. Just out on a wee walk in the woods after starting some winter resilience strategies for myself, which I'll get to. Now, first of all, before I get into the Roman calendar and start using isms like industrialism, the industrialist model and stuff like that, I want to be clear that I know every time I use an ism or an ist, there's people end up arguing in the comments. And what I want to make clear is that every time I discuss these things, I'm not saying things are good or bad, right? The conversations with these complex topics, conversations just don't go anywhere when people think of things as good or bad. And really, that good or bad oversimplification of things is really the left hemisphere, way of thinking that has got the human race in all the problems, right? It's better to think in terms of harmony and disharmony, in rhythm and out of rhythm, okay? Some things in a particular context would be in harmony. Take them out of that context, they are no longer in harmony. So I just want to make that point. You'll hear me saying this in many of my ponderings. I'll talk about disharmony and harmony, rhythm out of rhythm rather than good or bad, because that's too simple. Now, let's talk a bit about the calendar. Now, it's funny, you grow up and you just live by the culture that, you grew up in. Christmas is at this date, Easter's in this date, and you just go along with it for a while. But I guess the last few years, especially looking into the Highlander series, looking at how people lived pre-industrialization, when people were reliant on living around the seasons, particularly of the harvest, and in the Highlands around the cattle, because that was the main form of food and main form of economy, you just start to, see the land a bit more differently, see life, human life, a bit more differently. And, our calendar, I'm sure there's people who are watching might know more about the calendar system than I do. But essentially, we still call it the Roman calendar. Now, it is a bit of an evolution, but it seems to have started during the Roman age. This is why July is named after Julius Caesar. August is named after Augustus, another Roman emperor. So there you go. The two most bountiful months of the year are named after emperors, because during that time, emperors were worshipped like gods. So that's interesting that we are still using that calendar. Now, I'm sure it has quite a complex evolution, which perhaps someone viewing this knows more than me. But it is interesting that kind of in the medieval period, it seemed to spread probably through the church. It became more standardized, right? People before that would have been living kind of in their own calendars, to their own seasons, usually around agriculture, right? And I thought it was interesting when I read that, yeah, it was around the 1600s that in the Highlands and in Scotland, the New Year's swapped from Samhain, which means summer's end, it's at the waning of summer, which is now what we might call Halloween. So 31st of October, 1st of November, right? That was the New Year's. You would celebrate the New Year's then. And it was something about 1600s we've swapped to this Roman calendar. And then New Year's is right in the depths of winter. After actually the shortest day, which is, the 21st of December. That might make a bit more sense to celebrate. But I've always wondered, why do we celebrate New Year's on the 1st of January? And quite honest, the last few New Year's, I just haven't celebrated it. For me, I always feel my dopamine is completely burnt out from Christmas. You've already eaten too much, drank too much, slept too much, You just feel, at least for me, I usually just feel terrible when it comes to 1st of January. And then there's all those parties and you have to, pretend to be happy and celebrate another year. But it's really only just the last 3 months have I just questioned. It's like, well, why are we celebrating New Year's then? That doesn't make any sense at all. And this is where I want to talk about resilience strategies. Now, my online school, Resilient Roots, I set these monthly prompts with the idea of just setting some fun prompts to just encourage people to always go out and learn. So at the start of the month, I set 3 prompts: a primal adventure, a practice from home, and a ponder. And then at the end of the month, the last Thursday of every month, we do a live call and people share what they've done. And when I started to come up with these prompts, I knew that I wanted to align them with the seasons. Not only does it make sense, if you're practicing foraging or, making a survival food ration or something, that obviously has to be in season. Now, the students on Resilient Roots are pretty international. So we've got some people who live out in the desert in Australia and stuff like that. So obviously I can't I can't make prompts that are in everyone's season, but I'm at least basing them off the Northern Hemisphere. And what this is a really nice thing is that it just sort of reminds people to, rather than look at a calendar created by humans and then ultimately designed for the industrial system, especially, the clock, the whole 9-to-5 work week, 5 days a week. That's all about just getting maximal efficiency out of people, not actually living with the rhythms of the sun and the soil. So anyway, I've been setting these prompts and trying to make them seasonal. So last month, the practice from home was make a primitive fishing or hunting weapon. Now, that's not encouraging people to go use it. They can if they want, but it's more about this time of year. For thousands of years, our ancestors were preparing for the hunting season, has always been October, to gather meat for winter. So there was something that was like, okay, that seems to make sense to be preparing your hunting weapons. So we had some people make a bow and arrow, someone made a fishing spear, some people made throwing sticks and stuff like that. And this month's practice from home, it's make a friction fire set, and this is all in the preparation for winter, right? Fire, of course, is so important for winter. So I'm encouraging people to just try make a friction fire set. Even if it's not successful, it doesn't matter whether you can get a fire lit, just give it a go, right? That's the whole point of these prompts. But the pondering for this month is about winter resilience strategies. And the reason why I've set this in October, for October rather than setting it in December, is this realization of like, no, for thousands of years, right up only to the 1600s, October was the last month of the year because it's the last month of summer. And in terms of preparing for winter, it makes total sense to do it when you still have a little bit of summer energy in you. So I'm encouraging people to come up with some winter resilience strategies and write a letter to themselves that they're going to read in the depths of winter. Now, I've noticed this in, this word SAD, seasonal affective disorder, is really common amongst my family, amongst my friends, and I also feel it, right? It's kind of essentially like it's a winter depression due to lack of sunlight and things like that. And this, potentially, a lot of that might just be inevitable, but especially this last year, I've just realized is that actually it's not inevitable. That depression, we can do a lot to take the sting out of it. It's all about ultimately the concept of prevention is better than the cure, right? You've heard that saying a lot. It's often way better to, have a healthy lifestyle, do all those things before you get sick. Once you're sick, it's already late. And I was thinking this metaphor of winter, right? Winter's coming, the cold is coming, the long dark nights are coming to the Highlands of Scotland. And what is winter? It's cold. Now let's just bring it back to a super practical survival metaphor. Core body temperature. Right, your first line of defense for core body temperature is of course your clothing. And a big mistake that beginners do, that I've noticed, and I've got a lesson on layering systems on my school. The big mistake that people do is, right, they go out on a walk in winter, a hike in winter, they walk uphill, they get really hot, they strip off all their layers, and then they get to the top of the hill and they sit down in the wet ground without a pad, sit around and they have a snack and whatnot, but they haven't put any layers on, and they wait until they get cold before they put on their layers. But the problem is, your clothing doesn't make you warm, it can only trap the heat that your body is creating. So a more tactical perspective is that as soon as you get to the top of the hill, once you've still got that heat, then you put on your layers. You put on that puffer jacket, your scarf, your hat, you trap all of that. And you're always keeping your core body temperature ahead of the game. It's the same with hydration. If you've waited until you're thirsty to drink, you're kind of left it a bit late. If you're already pissing orange, you've left it too late. You should be hydrating little and often. The bare bones of calories, it's better to eat little and often, keep on top of your calories, rather than waiting until you're starving before you eat, rather than waiting until you're like, you can't really think straight because you've got low sugar in your brain. Prevention is better than the cure. So, winter. What things can we do to keep us sane in winter? Well, first of all, vitamin D. Right, so vitamin D you can take as a supplement, but also, as I'm doing now, get some sun in your eyes. There's loads of evidence of the benefits of getting sun early in the day. Ideally, like soon in the first hour that you've woken up, get some sunlight. And then try to avoid bright lights in the last few hours of your day. It's going to encourage good sleep, right? So getting sunlight. Vitamin D. What else? Sleep, right? This has been a big one for me. Since I was, late teens, really right up till quite recently, I would say I was very much caught up in the hustle culture, and listening to people like Jocko Willink and David Goggins, just like, yeah, gotta get after it, gotta get up early and, smash the day every day all year round. And then it was only recently I was like, hang on, all these like influencers are like just, promoting the hustle culture. They all live in California, where it's hot all the time. And this, as far as I'm aware, the sun, they don't really have a winter, they don't have such defined seasons like we do here. I was like, well, that's ridiculous to try act like someone who lives in that environment. And now if you think the sort of the technocrats, all the essentially the people that run our social media and, you know, a lot of what we compare ourselves to, yeah, the kind of Silicon Valley, that sort of climate, and promoting that sort of lifestyle, which is just not flipping realistic in the depths of winter. And sleep has always been something that I have almost battled against. You know, getting up really early and just expecting to have the same energy in winter. Now, of course, I'm aware, I've been self-employed the last 7 years. I understand there's people watching that are employed. They've got to negotiate with a boss. Although there's downsides of being self-employed, the pro is that, right, you can have a bit more autonomy with your life. And what I've realized the last few winters is actually just letting myself sleep. It's like, what are all the animals doing? I go out in the forest. Where are the animals? Guess what they're doing? They're flipping sleeping. What are our ancestors doing in the depths of winter? Not a lot. They were repairing stuff. They were sitting around the fire. They were sleeping. They were telling stories. They're not trying to start a new business or, like, you know, keep up with a summertime energy. It's ridiculous. You know, of course they're not. And I feel like a lot of our culture is still in this productivity-driven, constant productivity that's been going on since the start of the industrial age, but it's getting worse and worse, and especially we go on social media and we look at people as, oh my God, they got up at 5 a.m. and they've already done a workout and all this stuff, and oh man, I'm so lazy, I haven't done that, you know? But that's, when you live in the Highlands of Scotland, it doesn't get light till 9 a.m. That's really not a very helpful yardstick, is it? So sleep. Other thing is really understanding dopamine. I highly recommend a book called Dopamine Nation. I think I might do a ponder about that. But yeah, the festive period, what I hate is all this forced happiness. I sound like such a grumpy old man, but right, the consumerist culture, it's like, hey, it's Christmas time, buy this useless shit, and drink and eat and all that stuff. And, you know, usually go back to, you know, the area I grew up in around Christmas, and you see friends and family, and it's all great. But bloody hell, you're just eating, and then the next thing, and then you're drinking, and then the alcohol's affecting your sleep, and then you're kind of like trying to fit in the summertime rhythm and all this stuff. So, of course, diet and drinking and all that stuff, that's all going to play a role in affecting your seasonal affective disorder. So, let's summarize those a little bit. I know I'm just kind of wandering and waffling. Resilient strategies that I'm kind of looking at. Physical sunlight, getting out for a walk. So already I'm trying to implement these things now in August. So today, rather than going on my laptop and editing and emails and stuff that I usually do in the morning, I was like, you know what? Actually go out for a walk, get sunlight in my eyes first. That's first priority. Doesn't have to be a massive walk, just for a few minutes, get some sunlight in my eyes. Standard things like just exercising. The benefits of cold exposure, right? Cold dunking. Another great thing of starting now is that the water's not too cold yet. But if I can keep it regular, doing it now, rather than waiting till the depths of winter when it's absolutely freezing and I might have to break the ice, it's like I can have a bit of a warm-up. Yeah, and just making your fitness plans, making your diet plans. All I'm saying is that do it now. If you're going to do it, if you don't want to do it, fine, it's your life, whatever. But if you're going to do it in October. Do it before the depths of winter, because it's just like waiting until you're already cold and you're already tired and down to then give yourself unrealistic expectations for fitness goals or dietary goals. Doesn't seem to make sense. So there's a ponder for you folks. Apologies, this one seemed to be a tad more waffling and wandering than some of my other ones. But the point is, just question the boxes and the rhythms that we have been brought up on. Don't necessarily label them completely bad, right? They have a purpose in some context. But just question why some things are in certain times of year and why we're expected to work certain hours of the day and hours of the week, when actually, look how you're feeling in your gut and your body and the depths of your mind, the inner animal, the ancient inner animal inside of you. Look at that rather than look at what systems are telling you to do. I think the answers come from that inner animal. And just look outside. What are the trees doing? What are the animals doing? Right? What have the people who lived in your country, in your environment, what were they doing this time of year before the industrial system essentially started treating humans like robots, where productivity, profit is the main goal, regardless of the seasons, regardless of what the sun is doing, what the moon is doing, of what the soil demands, of what the rivers are providing. There was something about that separation that happened in the industrial age which has led to many, many problems. So, don't look at the industries to tell you when to wake up, what rhythms to live by. Look at nature. And prevention is better than the cure. So start your New Year's resolutions now. If you want to come join in this month's Pondering and share your winter resilience strategies, everyone's going to be sharing theirs. I think it's going to be really interesting, especially because we will have people from different parts of the globe. Come join us. I'll put a link to Resilient Roots below. And once again, thank you everyone for continuing to watch these and leave nice comments and all that stuff. And until then, cheery bye.